They told you privilege came from your skin, your status, your gender, your diploma, your resume. They were lying. Because there's a power that makes all of that irrelevant. A privilege not handed down by society, but encoded into your being. A divine frequency buried beneath the trauma, the titles, the limitations. They call it delusion. They call it ego. They call it heresy. But the truth? You are not your body. You are not your past. You are not your race, your gender, your pain. You are the God behind it all. And once you remember that, reality will kneel. This is the privilege they don't teach in schools, the kind that terrifies systems, collapses logic, and bends time. They gave you race. They gave you struggle. They gave you identity. But they never told you. You were the one writing the script all along. Welcome to God privilege, the most dangerous truth you were never meant to hear. You think you understand the world. You wake up, you work, you age, you die. And in between, if you're lucky, you might earn a little privilege, a raise, a degree, a status symbol. But here's what they never told you. None of it is real. What you call reality is just the visible light spectrum, 0.0035% of what actually exists. Let that sink in. You're basing your entire identity, your worth, your future, on less than a sliver of truth. The ancient mystics knew it. The quantum physicists now confirm it. This is not a world of matter. This is a world of vibration masquerading as matter. You were born into a frequency prison, a cage made of expectations, labels, and statistics. And they called it freedom. The third dimension, the realm of the seen, is not your home. It's your limitation. It's the sandbox where you're told you need this job to be respected. You need this look to be desired. You need this education to be heard. You need this skin tone to be safe. But every rule you've been taught is built on a lie, that you are what you see. You're not. You are what you believe. And belief, unseen, intangible, irrational, shapes reality more than any resume ever will. Because while you're here playing the game of success in a rigged system, the ones who really win, they've already escaped the simulation. They stopped trying to earn privilege and started realizing they are it. The system doesn't fear your hustle. It fears your awareness. Because the moment you realize this world is just a hallway of mirrors, you stop reacting to your reflection and you start changing the light. The most dangerous prison is the one you don't know you're in. And chances are you were born into it. From the second you took your first breath, they stamped you. Boy, girl, black, white, immigrant, poor, broken home, inner city, and just like that, your destiny was narrowed. You didn't choose these labels. You inherited them, like a curse passed down through bloodlines. But here's the chilling part. Every assigned identity comes with its own invisible operating system. Not one you install. One that installs itself. It whispers to you through teachers, textbooks, job interviews, news stories, algorithms. It tells you what people like you should expect. People like you work twice as hard. People like you don't get that opportunity. People like you should be grateful for crumbs. And if you resist, they'll call you delusional, entitled, unrealistic, but they won't call you what you actually are, unprogrammed. See, the system doesn't need chains to control you. It just needs belief. Because once you believe in your assigned identity, once you internalize the struggle, the stats, the trauma, you become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You live a life that was never yours, but feels like it is. This is how they keep you in line, not with force, but with frequency. They don't have to stop you from succeeding. They just have to make you believe that success was never meant for people like you. And the moment you accept that, they win. Because now, you'll police your own potential. You'll shrink before anyone ever asks you to. You'll apologize for wanting more. You'll sabotage the very thing you prayed for. That's how the Egregor works. An Egregor is not a ghost. It's not a demon. It's worse. It's a collective belief that becomes so powerful, so fed by fear and repetition, that it starts to act like an entity, not because it's alive, but because you gave it life. Take Marcus. Top 5% of his class, dual major, clean resume. He applies for a prestigious summer internship at Harvard, his dream. He walks into the panel interview confident, until he sees the faces across the table, their glances, the tone, the polite but patronizing questions. He doesn't bomb the interview, but when he leaves, he can't stop replaying the words of his uncle. People like us don't get into places like that. He didn't get rejected because he was black. He got rejected because somewhere in the back of his mind, he believed he would be. And belief is the gatekeeper of vibration. Because he walked into that room with credentials, but the Egregor walked in with him. That's how the system works. It plants an idea in your subconscious and waits. It knows you'll do the rest. So the next time you hear someone say, "Well, of course she didn't get the job. She's a woman," or "He's not taken seriously. He's a minority," understand this. That's not a truth. That's a spell, a hypnotic suggestion wrapped in logic and sold as fact. And if you agree with it, even once, you become the Egregor's puppet. So the question is, are you really you? Or are you just playing the role they gave you? You're not losing. You're being programmed to believe you were never supposed to win. Because here's the brutal truth. Oppression doesn't always look like chains. Sometimes it looks like culture, like realism, like advice from well-meaning people who've been broken by the system and now preach survival as gospel. This isn't about racism or sexism or any ism. This is about frequencies and how entire populations are groomed to vibrate at the level of defeat. It's spiritual warfare disguised as social commentary. And it starts with a question no one ever taught you to ask. Where did your beliefs come from? Because if your mother believed life was hard, and your father believed money was evil, and your community believed success was reserved for someone else, what did you think would become of you? You weren't taught to believe in yourself. You were taught to survive yourself, and it gets worse. Because the more you suffer inside that belief system, the more society applauds you for being strong. No one asks why you were suffering in the first place. Because strength is only glorified when struggle is expected. In ancient esoteric teachings, there's a name for this phenomenon: Egregor. It's not a spirit. It's not a demon. It's something far more dangerous. It's a collective entity built from belief. A psychic force fed by the emotional energy of entire identity groups. Think of it like a spiritual algorithm. The more people believe it, the stronger it gets. The stronger it gets, the more it programs the next generation. And unlike you, it never sleeps. If you're born into poverty and here, that's just how life is, you're not just inheriting circumstance. You're inheriting the egregor of limitation. If you're born a woman and told you won't be taken seriously, you're not just hearing doubt, you're downloading the code. And every time you repeat it, even in your head, You feed it. Modern neuroscience calls it neural pathways. The more a belief is repeated, the deeper the groove it cuts into your brain. Eventually, it stops being a thought and becomes a reflex. You don't question it. You don't notice it. You just live by it, like software running in the background. But make no mistake, just because it's unconscious doesn't mean it's harmless. Because here's what they never told you. The subconscious mind doesn't filter truth from fiction. It accepts whatever you feed it, especially when it's repeated, emotional, and inherited. So if your subconscious believes life is a struggle, it will subconsciously seek out situations to validate that struggle. If it believes success isn't for people like you, it will repel opportunities like a spiritual ad blocker. You'll call it bad luck, but in reality, it was alignment. You aligned vibrationally with the very reality you wanted to escape. Let's talk about David. He grew up in a trailer park. No college degree, no fancy connections. But here's the difference. He never bought into the script. He never absorbed the egregor. He applied to companies he was unqualified for. Started ventures he had no business starting. And when people said, "That's not realistic," he asked, "Whose reality are you talking about?" Today, David runs a tech company worth over $300 million. And not because he broke the rules, but because, in his mind, there were no rules. So what's the real oppression? It's not in your paycheck. It's not in your resume. It's not even in the system. It's in the beliefs you inherited and never questioned. That's why the most radical thing you can do isn't protest. It's deprogram. Because once you stop feeding the egregor, it starves. And once it starves, you finally hear yourself think. So what happens when the spell breaks? What's left after you peel off the name, the role, the skin, the struggle? Who are you when there's no script? Answer: you are the source, not a drop in the ocean, but the ocean in a drop. You were never supposed to just survive this world. You were meant to generate it. They told you to be realistic, to be humble, to fit in. But that advice only applies to people who forget what they are. Because here's the truth. No institution, no school, no corporate hierarchy dares to say, you are God in form. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. You are awareness wrapped in skin, the observer, the builder, the authority. And once you identify as that, once you operate from that frequency, the world doesn't respond to you the same way. Why? Because frequency doesn't follow logic. It follows identity. Think of identity like a radio station. Most people are tuned into the static of limitation. I'm not qualified. I'm too old. I'm not experienced enough. And what does life do? It plays the song you tuned into. But when you shift your identity, when you align with the truth that you are not chasing power, you are power, the entire playlist changes. Suddenly, doors open. People treat you differently. The impossible becomes expected. It's not luck. It's not hustle. It's cosmic recognition. The external world is just a mirror programmed by your internal broadcast. So if you want a different reflection, you need a different frequency. In Kabbalah, they call the physical world the 1% realm, the world of illusion, separation, and scarcity. Why? Because it's the smallest fraction of what actually exists. The remaining 99% is invisible, energetic, spiritual. You are not from the 1%. You are from the 99%, the formless, unlimited, untouchable. But you've been tricked into identifying with the fraction instead of the whole. You've mistaken your body for your boundaries, your past for your identity, your trauma for your truth. This is what happens when you operate from cosmic identity. You don't ask for permission. You don't beg to be seen. You don't wait for recognition. You radiate. Because when you know you're God in form, you stop reacting to reality and start generating it. You speak with conviction. You walk with power. You collapse timelines with thought. You no longer ask, how do I get it? You declare, it's already mine. So what's the final truth? You're not here to earn privilege. You are the privilege. But as long as you operate through your assigned identity, you'll keep waiting to be allowed into a reality you were born to command. Because the world doesn't reward who you try to be. It rewards what you are at your core. And until you remember, it will keep arguing with you. But the moment you claim your cosmic identity, life surrenders. You've broken the script. You've shattered the false identity. Now what? Now we weaponize it. Because if identity is frequency, and frequency shapes reality, then the most radical, most dangerous act you can commit is inner alignment. You've been taught to chase results, to grind, to hustle, to make it happen. But here's the part they never told you. Reality doesn't respond to effort. It responds to energy. And if your energy is desperate, if it's anxious, if it's rooted in not enough, then everything you attract will mirror that frequency. This is the great spiritual con of the 21st century. You can look like a success and still vibrate like a beggar. Because transmutation isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more. So, how it works? Every belief has a frequency. Every emotion carries a charge. Every identity you hold creates a vibrational field around you. That's not spirituality, that's quantum mechanics. Just like a tuning fork activates a matching vibration in another, your inner state sends out a signal to the field around you. This is why you can do everything right and still fail. You may be working hard, but you're vibrating at lack. You may be saying affirmations, but you're still emotionally attached to fear. You're praying with your mouth and doubting with your nervous system, and the universe responds to the nervous system. Transmutation starts with a decision. I no longer operate at the frequency of limitation. And then you act from that place. You speak differently. You walk differently. You expect differently. You don't try to be confident. You are confidence. You don't look for proof. You become the proof. You shift from chasing results to radiating inevitability. Transmutation also means emotional responsibility. You don't get to feel unworthy and manifest abundance. You don't get to vibrate at I'm ignored and attract attention. This isn't punishment, it's precision. So ask yourself, what emotion do I default to when things go wrong? What belief do I fall back on when I'm under pressure? What identity am I reinforcing when no one's watching? Because whatever you tolerate internally, you recreate externally. You are not your feelings. You are the one generating them, which means you can transmute them. Realism is the enemy of transmutation, because realism says, let's be practical. Let's manage expectations. Let's not be disappointed. But what it's really saying is, let's play small. Let's dim our signal. Let's die slowly. Here's a universal law no one teaches in school. Reality bends for the emotionally certain, not for the most qualified, not for the smartest, not for the most oppressed, but for the ones who have aligned their entire state of being with the reality they've already decided is theirs. Transmutation is not wishful thinking. It's spiritual rebellion. It's taking every false identity, every trauma, every label, and saying, I will not vibrate here anymore. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to understand everything. You just have to stop identifying with what isn't you. Because once you detach from limitation, you rise above it. And when you rise, reality doesn't fight back. It follows. You've escaped the system. You've reclaimed your identity. You've learned to transmute your energy. But now comes the most dangerous part, burning the altar. Because whether you know it or not, you've been worshiping false gods your entire life. No, not statues, not deities with gold crowns and incense. I'm talking about the silent idols that rule your decisions, degrees, genders, fame, validation, data, trauma, all the things you've been trained to bow to without realizing it. You believed the degree would save you, the follower count would validate you, the title would complete you, the trauma would define you. But they're all the same thing, false altars, erected to convince you that power is something you chase, not something you are. Stanley Milgram ran a famous experiment in the 1960s. Volunteers were told to administer electric shocks to strangers. Most of them complied, even when they believed they were causing real harm. Why? Because someone in a lab coat said, "It's okay." That's the spell of authority. When you believe someone else knows better, you outsource your conscience. When you believe someone else defines reality, you outsource your frequency. And when enough people do that, the illusion becomes law. Let's talk about Lena, brilliant, visionary, but constantly overlooked. Why? Because every time she entered a room, she shrank in the presence of credentials. I didn't go to Harvard. I don't have corporate experience. I didn't come from money. She saw the resume as a god. She assumed the person with the title had the authority. But one day, something snapped. She stopped looking up, stopped explaining, stopped apologizing. She started speaking from her knowing, not for approval. By the next quarter, she wasn't begging for a seat at the table. She owned the table. Because when you stop worshiping man-made credentials, you start moving like the original architect. Here's the secret that institutions, religions, and empires don't want spreading. You are your own authority. Not because you're perfect, not because you've read the right books, but because you're the only one with the power to create your reality from the inside out. They trained you to fear your own voice, to doubt your own knowing, to bow to the external every time. But guess what? No degree has more power than emotional certainty. No credential outranks frequency. No guru outranks God within. The most addictive idol, struggle. Some people don't worship money. They worship pain. They build their identity around trauma. Their credibility comes from suffering. Look how much I've endured. Look how hard it was for me. But here's the trap. When your struggle becomes your status, you'll unconsciously sabotage anything that threatens to end it. Because if you're no longer suffering, who are you? And that's the dangerous spell of self-worship. You begin to idolize your past. You romanticize your pain. You mistake your story for your destiny. So here's what you do. Burn the altar of trauma. Burn the altar of degrees. Burn the altar of validation. Burn the altar of race. Burn the altar of gender. Burn the altar of being realistic. Every idol that tells you you're not enough. Torch it. Because once you do, you'll stop looking for signs. and start moving like the signal. You'll stop looking for open doors and start realizing you are the architect of the building. You'll stop saying, "I hope they choose me," and start declaring, "I already chose myself." Every false god is a middleman, a gatekeeper between you and the truth. You were never meant to worship. You were meant to remember. Remember what? That you are not the seeker. You are the source. And once you live from that place, the game collapses. By now, you've seen the illusion. You've dropped the labels. You've reclaimed your identity. You've shattered the false gods. But here's the plot twist. They know. They know you're waking up. They know you've stepped out of the script. And now, they want your signal back. This war isn't fought with bullets. It's fought with bandwidth, with algorithms, with narratives, with noise. Because if you control the signal, you control the state. And if you control the state, you control the soul. This is no longer just spiritual. This is geopolitical. Your phone is not just a device. It's a frequency hacking machine. Every scroll, every click, every like trains your nervous system to vibrate at a specific level. You think you're checking Instagram, but really, you're subconsciously downloading anxiety, inadequacy, urgency, lack. You're being programmed to believe you're behind, you're not enough. You need to do more to be valuable. Everyone else is winning, and you're not. That's not random. That's design. Because as long as you're stuck in comparison, you can't access creation. Now let's talk about the next layer. The systems built to dull your signal. Big Pharma doesn't heal you. It stabilizes your symptoms. Mainstream education doesn't empower you. It trains you to obey. News media doesn't inform you. It floods your nervous system with cortisol. And religion? It doesn't liberate you. It teaches you to wait, to beg, to ask permission from a god outside of you. Every system is built on the same blueprint. Keep you below a certain frequency, and you'll never remember what you are. Because once you remember, you stop being manageable. In psychology, there's a term, learned helplessness. It's when a person is repeatedly subjected to negative conditions, and eventually, they stop trying to escape, even when escape is possible. Sound familiar? That's most of society, trained from birth to believe that effort is noble, struggle is holy, and dreaming too big is dangerous. So even when the door is open, you stay in the cage. Not because you can't leave, but because you've been convinced the world outside is worse. That's not survival. That's frequency control. You've been trained to protect your body, to lock your doors, to fear contamination. But the real virus isn't physical. It's vibrational. It's the viral spread of powerlessness, outrage, and spiritual amnesia. Every time you absorb someone else's narrative, someone else's fear, someone else's identity, you lower your own. And here's the dangerous part. Most people think they're thinking for themselves. But really, they're just recycling someone else's frequency. This war isn't coming. It's already here. And it's not about land. It's not about oil. It's not even about money. It's about your attention. Because attention is energy, and energy is creation. And whoever controls your attention creates your world for you. So ask yourself, what are you tuned into daily? What frequencies are looping in your nervous system? Who benefits from you being confused, distracted, and docile? Because your signal is your superpower. And if you don't protect it, someone else will own it. They've hijacked your signal, flooded your field, taught you to forget, But now, the signal is clearing. And for the first time in your life, you're about to hear the truth, unfiltered. You are the frequency. You were never the seeker. You were always the source. Long before the name, long before the struggle, long before the trauma and the titles. You existed, not as a person, but as a pulse, a signature vibration. The ancients called it the I Am. Modern physics calls it the zero-point field. Christ called it the kingdom within. Hermetics called it the all. You don't need to chase power. You need to remember the field you came from. Because everything you desire, it's not in the future. It's already vibrating at a frequency. And that frequency is already inside you. You've been unconsciously casting spells your entire life. I am tired. I am broke. I am overlooked. I am not ready. And the universe has been faithfully echoing them back. Not because it hates you, but because it's obedient. It can only reflect what you broadcast. But here's the shift. What if you change the broadcast? What if you speak not from lack, but from sovereignty? I am ease. I am overflow. I am chosen. I am the source. Now you're not asking life to change. You're telling it. Now you're not reacting to frequency. You're reclaiming it. Here's the formula they don't want circulating. 1. Silence the noise. You can't access your signal if you're drowning in everyone else's. Unplug. Fast. Cut the feed. 2. Drop into awareness. Before you affirm, visualize, or manifest, feel. Feel the real you, the you behind the thoughts, the one that watches, the one that knows. 3. Speak like the source. No more, I'll try. No more, someday. Speak as if it's already done, because to the field, it is. 4. Normalize the supernatural. The more you normalize wealth, love, respect, and peace, the faster they materialize, not because you're lucky, but because you're no longer resisting your own power. Make no mistake, the moment you reclaim your signal, the matrix will push back. It will send reminders of who you used to be. It will throw old frequencies in your face, old narratives, old doubts, old mirrors. That's not punishment. That's calibration. When the old reality shakes, it means the new one is landing. Do not collapse. Hold the frequency. You're not faking it. You're familiarizing it. You're building a nervous system that no longer folds under pressure, but radiates under it. There's a version of you, already wealthy, already powerful, already healed, already aligned. That version isn't out there. It's vibrating right now in the same space you're sitting in. The only reason you can't see it? You've been tuned into someone else's signal. So here's what you do. Detach from the feed. Delete the old spell. Drop into stillness. And say it with your full chest. I am the cause. I am the source. I am the signal. I am the frequency. And reality bends to me. You've done everything right. You got the degree. You followed the blueprint. You obeyed the rules. But something still doesn't add up. You see people who cut corners winning. People who don't work half as hard, thriving. People who shouldn't be there, owning the room. So you tell yourself it's luck, it's connections, it's corruption. But what if it's none of that? What if the system doesn't reward logic at all? What if it rewards frequency? Since childhood, you've been conditioned with one message: work hard and you'll succeed. But look around. Is that really true? If hard work guaranteed success, every construction worker would be a millionaire. If intelligence created freedom, every professor would live like a king. And if logic ran the world, the best ideas would always win. But they don't, because this world doesn't run on logic. It runs on alignment. Two people can do the exact same thing. Same plan, same strategy, same tools. One succeeds, one fails. Why? Because one did it from the identity of "this is who I am." The other did it from the identity of "I hope this works." And the field, the quantum field, can feel the difference. It doesn't respond to the action. It responds to the state behind the action. You can't strategize your way into a reality your nervous system doesn't believe you're allowed to have. You can't logic your way into wealth if your self-concept vibrates at survival. Let's talk about Raymond. No Ivy League background, no connections, no MBA. He launches a business that on paper should fail. No niche, no marketing degree, no funding. But it takes off. Why? Because Raymond didn't try to convince the market. He simply radiated certainty. He didn't follow best practices. He followed resonance. People didn't buy because of the offer. They bought because of the energy behind the offer. If you're still relying on logic to save you, you're still playing on a battlefield built to keep you predictable. Because logic is safe. Logic is measurable. Logic is controlled. But creation is chaotic. It's emotional. It's electric. The Wright brothers didn't follow logic. They followed imagination. Tesla didn't chase practicality. He chased frequency. And Jesus? He didn't appeal to reason. He spoke in vibration. Every time you overthink, every time you figure it out from fear, you move further away from the field because thought is limited. He didn't follow best practices. He followed resonance. People didn't buy because of the offer. They bought because of the energy behind the offer. If you're still relying on logic to save you, you're still playing on a battlefield built to keep you predictable. Because logic is safe. Logic is measurable. Logic is controlled. But creation is chaotic. It's emotional. It's electric. The Wright brothers didn't follow logic. They followed imagination. Tesla didn't chase practicality. He chased frequency. And Jesus? He didn't appeal to reason. He spoke in vibration. Every time you overthink, every time you figure it out from fear, you move further away from the field. Because thought is limited, but state is infinite. You think your plan is what will get you there, but the plan is just the costume. The vibration is the actor. And if your vibration says, "I'm not ready," no plan can override that frequency. At some point, the spreadsheet stops working. The funnel breaks. The formula fails. And when that happens, you're forced to confront the one thing no strategy can replace: your inner signal. Because in the new paradigm, the ones who win aren't the ones with the best idea. They're the ones who can hold the most energy without collapsing. So here's the collapse. Stop thinking your way into the room. Start being the room. Stop strategizing to be chosen. Start aligning with already being the chooser. Stop performing for the algorithm. Start vibrating as the source. Because the world doesn't run on logic. It runs on frequency. And once you accept that, you're not bound by rules. You become the exception. You've seen the illusion. You've broken the programming. You've reclaimed your frequency. Now, it's time to return, not to the old self, not to the system, but to the one who is always watching, always waiting, the God within. They told you something was wrong with you, that you needed fixing, saving, validating. But the truth, you were never broken. You were just buried under trauma, titles, timelines, false gods, and fake identities. Every struggle was just a whisper. Every failure, an alarm clock, trying to shake you, wake you, remind you, You are not this body. You are not this story. You are not this fear. You are the signal that writes stories. You are the architect of timelines. You are the source they taught you to outsource. Even now, the old self will resist. It'll say, "That's arrogant. That's unrealistic. You're playing God." But you're not playing God. You're remembering you always were. Because the greatest act of rebellion is becoming what they told you was blasphemy. You are not here to be modest. You are not here to be logical. You are here to remember and radiate. You are not the chosen one. You are the one who chooses. No more playing small to make others comfortable. No more deferring to systems that never saw you. You are not here to ask for power. You are here to become power. From this moment forward, the game changes. You don't chase. You attract. You don't beg. You declare. You don't hustle. You harmonize. You don't fear outcomes. You create them. This isn't manifestation. This is identification. And identity is destiny. Being God doesn't mean having control over others. It means having absolute authorship over yourself. It means walking into every room knowing, there is nothing I need here. I am the thing. It means holding the frequency of truth. Even when the world demands you lie to fit in, it means vibrating at such a high level. That illusion cannot survive in your presence. So here you are, not enlightened, not ascended, but home, back in your body, back in your field, back in the seat of your reality. You don't need to visualize anymore. You just need to see. You don't need to attract anymore. You just need to align. You don't need to beg God, because you just remembered you are the signal. You are the field. You are the frequency. You are the God. And now that you've returned, nothing will ever rule you again.